my name is Smokey Wister, and I will be talking about Horst P. Horst. This is a quote from the New York Times, and it really sums up his career in one sentence. He pulled influences from the different artists he met and the different genres he loved, and put it into his fashion photography and made these complex images. He was born August 14th, 1906 to Max and Clara in Germany. His aunt lived near the Bauhaus, and he got to meet some of the students there, including Eva Wiedemann, who he was going to live with, but he had to focus on his future. He went to the School of Applied Arts to become a carpenter, and he stayed there for about 3 years until he moved to Paris to go work with the architect Le Corbusier. He helped furnish some apartments there, but he was unhappy by the time summer rolled around, and he met George Huygens, and this is really where his interest in photography grew. He became the protege to George Huygens in 1930. He spent a lot of time with him. He got to meet Cecil Beaton and Maheen Og, the art director of Vogue, and this is where he got to also do his first trial for Vogue, and he got published in 1931. In 1932, he caught the eye of Condé Nast and went to go work in New York for about 6 months, and he asked for a raise, but Condé Nast fired him and told him, "You're not Steichen." He returned to Paris and became the chief photographer for French Vogue for a while. When World War II came, he went back to New York, enlisted in the army, and became a war photographer for a while. He gained his citizenship and was given a new contract after the war with Vogue. In 1952, he started having a falling out with Vogue because the editor wanted more realism, and fashion photography was focused on natural and outside photo shoots, and Horst didn't really like that. He did little projects for House and Garden and Vanity Fair. In 1962, he was rehired by Diana Vreeland for Vogue and became the interior photographer throughout the 60s and 70s. But his work started to diminish with Vogue in the late 70s. In the 80s, the younger generations were wanting more and more of his photographs because they were interested in the 30s and 40s elegance he produced in his images. This is a photo he took of Salvador Dali. Him and Salvador Dali became great friends, and they both kind of drew influences from each other. You can see that in this photograph Horst took of Dali's costumes for Dali's ballet. Dali designed the set and the costumes. In 2008, this was recreated by Tim Walker for Italian Vogue. This is the first photo he took of Coco Chanel, and this is the photo shoot he met her and also where their friendship bloomed. This photo was also recreated in 2008 by Kathleen Naudorf, and she did a similar image with a model, and it was in Chanel's Parisian apartment. This is a photo Horst took of a model wearing a Chanel outfit. He loved using the studio settings because of being able to manipulate the spotlights to create the contrast between darks and lights and getting great tonal ranges. His work was mainly black and whites, but with this one he did color, and he had to do color because Condé Nast Publishing loved the color and loved the way that the clothing looked and the way it romanticized the settings. This is one of his most iconic images, and it is of the main brooch corset. Vogue actually touched this up so that the corset would look like it fit the model perfectly. Um, Madonna actually recreated this in her music video for Vogue, and the setting was made out of inexpensive objects such as cardboard and plaster, but it looks like marble. He even reused this setting again in another photograph. This one I personally think shows off his style of using the spotlights to highlight the dress, and it it shows you the detail in the dress and the fashion. But I think it's unfortunate because it also darkens the model's face and hides her facial features and the expression that she's giving. He has said in an article that the lighting he created was so complex that he couldn't recreate it if he had to. This one, you can see the influence of Man Ray, one of his artistic friends, and Man Ray was part of the avant-garde in Paris, and you can also see the influence of the avant-garde here in Horst's photo. This is one of my favorites, and I think it's because of the way the lighting shows the sharp contrast between black and white, especially in the skirt. This is also another one that shows the influence of Man Ray, also shows the influence of Cubism, and Horst loved the negative positive look that the photogram gave off, and it also kind of looks like a railgraph that Man Ray had invented. This is one of the still lifes that Horst did, and with the still lifes that he produced, you could see his personal style in it a little better than the fashion, because he used the same settings and the immense lighting that creates the high contrast. This is a photo he took of Irving Penn, and with this one it's not as high drama as his normal ones, because during this year, this is when the editor wanted more realism and more naturalism. Also, this is when his work started to diminish with Vogue. This is one he took of Lisa, hat and gloves, and she's a model he would use frequently for his fashion photography and for the advertisements. This is Diana Verland. This is one of his friends and the woman that hired him in 1962. In 2009, in Harper's Bazaar, Sarah Jessica Parker portrayed Verland in a similar photograph for an editorial called Why Don't You? This is one that he took in 1962, and this is also when Verland hires him back again, and also when his job becomes secure with Vogue, and he continues to work with them until he retires. And with this one, you can't really tell if he's in his studio settings or if he's outside because of the intricate detail he would put in those studio settings. This is another one I love, and this was done for the Vogue June 1st issue in 1969. This is one of the many interior photographs he created during the 60s. He was a part of Vogue for about 60 years, so a lot of his images have been recreated. This one was done by Stephen Mazel, and he did a similar one with Linda Evangelista, and she was peeking out of a hidden door also with a matching mural on the wall, and it was for an editorial called The Duchess for Italian Vogue. This is one of his famous covers that he did for Vogue, and it was with Lisa Fossen-Grives, his model. He told her to use her body to create the word Vogue, and it was also for the swimsuit issue, so he made it look like it was synchronized swimmers. Vogue recreated this twice, once in 1991 for British Vogue, and in 2009 for Barbie's 50th anniversary, so they used Barbies instead of the models. Talking about Horst and all he did for Vogue for those 60 years, he pulled a lot of inspiration from Greek classicism, Baroque romanticism, Hollywood studio photography, and film noir. Um, he also did some avant-garde and surrealism, and he did pull influence from the Bauhaus. He used an 8x10 camera for long exposures so he could get the detail, and would tell the models to pose in formal poses. And he was also quoted saying, "There was no question then of a photographer shouting over the din of recorded music, 'Action, here we go, baby.' Instead, one said gently, 'Please don't move, try not to stare, and can you possibly hold that smile?'" In the later years of his career, he left a mark on the younger generation. In an interview with New York Times, he said, "I photographed that English rock and roll group, what do you call them, Duran Duran, and they wanted to know all about Madame So-and-so and all the Paris people, and I photographed Mick Jagger in Barbados, and he wanted to know all about that period too." The photograph I have of him in the beginning is by Michael Somarov, and he was influenced by Horst. Also, Bruce Weber was another photographer influenced by Horst, and Weber commented saying the elegance that he put into his photographs gave his models an untouchable quality, and that's what Horst was really about, was giving you an untouchable quality in his photographs.